This is a size 30 dry fly. It's a little midge, and it will catch fish. We'll talk about a book that introduces you to how to fish these and how to tie them today on Casting Across. Hi, Matthew of castingacross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture of fly fishing. I love fishing midges. One of the primary reasons is you know that they are in the system that you are fishing. They exist all over the place, and they are active, even hatching and being effective dry flies 12 months out of the year in so many places. It is a great tool to have at your disposal, even though they're hard to see and hard to tie on. Now, midge is kind of a catch-all term. There are formal midges from a taxonomical standpoint, but just like we call any sort of bug that originates outside the river and then falls into it, ants, beetles, grasshoppers, things like that, terrestrials, midges kind of encompasses any and all teeny tiny fly. I don't know if there's a formal distinction if it's size 24 or smaller, but you can kind of find any sort of organism that is teeny tiny and it will go into that category of midge. Now, I have fished midges on the tailwaters in the South, in places like Arkansas. I've fished them on the spring creeks in South Central Pennsylvania, out in the Rockies on glassy water in the Rocky Mountain National Park, and up in Wisconsin's driftless. They are really an incredibly versatile pattern that once you know how to fish them, you can employ those flies and the techniques to fish them all over the place. And it doesn't require a lot of special equipment. As long as you have tippet that is small enough to fit through the eye of the hook, and you know how to create leaders that can effectively present these flies, and then you have a rod that's tip is delicate enough to protect those tippets, then you can fish a midge. Information like that is the kind of stuff that you're going to find in Midge Magic, a 2001 release from Stackpole, written by Don Holbrook and Ed Koch. Now, Ed Koch passed away about 15 years ago, but Don Holbrook just passed away in the last few months. Now, these are South Central Pennsylvania guys, and one of the things that I've said time and time again is that South Central Pennsylvania, particularly the Cumberland Valley, has an outsized influence on angling techniques, tactics, and equipment, as well as literature. Now, there are other great midge books that Holbrook and certainly Koch have contributed to, and some of those will probably show up here on the channel in the near future. But I wanted to present this book today for a few reasons. It's a great primer and a great book that you could benefit from either as an angler or as a fly tyer. The first handful of chapters introduce what it means to fish midges, why they are worth getting familiar with, and why they're worth having in your boxes. Some quick words on what it means to have a box full of midges, as well as the equipment modifications that may be necessary, but certainly, as I alluded to earlier, not at all difficult to fish these patterns. And then the rest of the book goes through what it means to tie these flies. Now, one of the things that I want to be clear about is that fly tying books, or books that have a fly tying emphasis, are very, very important for you, even if you don't consider yourself an avid fly tyer. And here's why. A book that has passed the test, that has stood the test of time, will give you the information as you look at these flies and understand the rationale and the reason about how and why they were tied, as along with the images of the actual insects, so that when you go to not just select flies from a pattern perspective, but particular flies from a shop, or if you buy online, or if you know a tyer, you know what kind of flies to look for. So one of the great things about Midge Magic is that you have fantastic images for actually tying a fly. Very, very helpful. It comes alongside you as you're watching videos on YouTube, and it gives you some more static images. And what you're going to get here in Midge Magic is you're going to get not only subsurface patterns, but also topwater patterns. You're also going to get some of those essential pictures, as I mentioned earlier, about what the naturals look like. What are we actually trying to imitate when we are fishing midges? And so this book does a really good job of doing that, and then giving a breakdown of how some slight variations in how you tie these flies can create different presentations to those fish. Whereas one without ribbing may work on a day that is bright and sunny, add a little bit of ribbing and it is going to work on a cloudy day, and maybe add some flash and it is going to instigate some strikes when the fish aren't going after anything. And so this book does give you a great orientation and introduction to a number of the different midge styles and midge types, so that if you are tying, then you can get behind the vise and give it a shot. Honestly, even if you are not a great tyer, some of these patterns are the kind of flies that you can start to build your confidence on. The complications with a lot of these patterns, particularly the subsurface midge flies, is not so much the technique involved, it's working at that small scale. But I found when I was a young angler that I started tying Griffith's gnats smaller and smaller and smaller until I was very comfortable with utilizing hackles that were very, very tiny, selecting hackles that matched that hook size, and then I had a pattern that, as a midge, was incredibly functional, even though it only required 2 materials, thread and tiny, tiny hackle. And these days, it's easy to get smaller quantities of hooks and of hackles, even specially sized hackle packs that allows you to tie midges and fish midges very, very simply. But I would recommend Midge Magic to you. There's some other great information here, including a transcript of Holbrook's fishing log for about 5 or 6 years, and kind of can give you an idea of the sort of patterns and things to pay attention to as you are fishing the same stream or the same region over and over again. But this is a great book to add to your collection if you are a fly tyer, if you fish South Central Pennsylvania, or if you have enjoyed fishing midges. Again, there's a lot of other books out there that will add to this knowledge base, but this is a great book that I received actually from Ed Koch's personal collection. His son passed it on to me from a box of books that his dad still had prior to his passing. So it's a special volume that I have. So do you like fishing midges? Do you like fishing them on top where you can see those nice, delicate little rises, fishing smooth, glassy water? Or do you like having a midge maybe be the point fly in your nymph rig? Let me know what your favorite midge is in the comments below. Then head over to castingacross.com for 3 posts a week on the people, place, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.